I found my missing brother's phone. Still getting texts. From me, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. One long, insistent vibration that rattled the wood. I blinked, the light from the screen slicing through the darkness. 3:27 a.m. I thought it was an emergency. My heart kicked awake before my brain did. I grabbed the phone, thumb fumbling at the lock screen, half expecting a text from my mom, or maybe a late-night email from work. But it wasn't my phone that was buzzing. It was another one. A black phone, chipped on the corner, screen faintly cracked, lying on my desk. The same phone I'd found 3 weeks ago in the woods behind our house. The same phone that had once belonged to my brother, Arav. Arav had been missing for nearly 9 months. No body, no clues, no sign. Just the phone, buried under wet leaves, found by accident when I was clearing a path for the dog. It was dead when I found it, coated with dirt, waterlogged, heavy with mud. I charged it, thinking maybe the police had missed something. Some last photo, a GPS ping, a note. What I didn't expect was for it to turn on. And even less, for it to keep getting messages. The first ones were from our mother. "Where are you? Please come home. Just text me, please." They dated back to the day he disappeared. But what made my skin crawl that first night, what still made it crawl now, was the newer ones. Because the newer ones were from me. Not the me that was awake right now. Not the me holding my own phone. These messages were from my number, my contact photo, my name. The first time it happened, I laughed. A nervous, confused laugh. Some kind of sync glitch, I thought. Maybe iCloud had duplicated my messages, or some hacker had spoofed my number. I even tried texting the number myself. "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "You know who I am." I deleted the chat that night, factory reset the phone, even turned off my own number for a day. But the messages kept showing up. Now, 3 weeks later, I sat in the dark again. That same uneasy pulse of vibration echoing against the desk. I didn't want to look, but I did. New message. From me. "Stop pretending you don't remember." My chest went cold. I typed back, hands shaking. "Remember what?" The typing dots appeared. 3 dots. Pause. 3 dots again. Then finally, the river. I stared at the word until it lost meaning. The river. There was a river near the woods. Shallow, slow, brown water cutting through the trees like a scar. We used to go there as kids. Arav loved skipping stones. I loved building little dams with sticks. But after he disappeared, the police searched it. They found nothing. I stood up, the floor cold under my feet. The phone buzzed again. "It's still there. Under the bridge. You need to see it." I wanted to throw the phone into the wall. Instead, I slipped it into my pocket, grabbed my hoodie, and stepped outside. The air was damp, the kind that clings to your skin. The woods were quiet except for the hum of insects and the distant rush of the river. I followed the familiar trail, flashlight cutting through the dark. Every few steps, the phone buzzed again. Each time, another message. "Hurry! You're late!" It's sinking. I reached the old bridge after what felt like forever. It was smaller than I remembered, a slatted wooden crossing barely wide enough for a truck. The river gurgled beneath it, murky and slow. I shone the light down. The beam caught something metallic, half submerged near the base of one of the supports. A flash, like a reflection. The phone buzzed again. "That's mine. Take it out." I crouched at the edge, trying to get a better look. It looked like an old tin box, the kind people used to keep letters in. My flashlight wavered, my hand was slick with sweat. There was a part of me that wanted to turn around, go home, pretend none of this existed. But there was another part, the part that hadn't slept properly in months, that needed to know. I climbed down the embankment, shoes sinking into the mud, and reached the water's edge. The current was stronger here, pulling at the hem of my jeans. I reached out, fingers brushing the cold metal of the box. It was wedged under a stone. With a grunt, I pulled it free. The lid was rusted shut. I brought it back up to the bank and pried at it with a rock until it cracked open. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, yellowed and damp. My name was written on it, Rohan. I unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was Arav's. "If you're reading this, you found the phone. Don't call the police. She's still watching." The phone buzzed again, so violently I almost dropped it. I looked down. Another message. "Don't read it out loud." The woods around me suddenly felt heavier. The sound of the river grew louder, like it was swallowing everything else. I turned the flashlight in a slow circle. Nothing but trees and fog. Another buzz. "You shouldn't have come alone." That one wasn't from me. The contact name was blank. I looked back toward the path. A figure stood at the far end of the bridge. Still, tall, unrecognizable. I froze, the phone slipping slightly in my grip. It was watching me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then in the faint light, I saw its head tilt, slow and deliberate. The phone buzzed one more time. "Run." I didn't think. I dropped the box, turned, and bolted down the trail, branches clawing at my hoodie, mud splashing up my legs. I didn't stop until I saw the light of my porch cutting through the darkness. When I finally slammed the door behind me, chest heaving, I looked at the phone. The screen was black. I pressed the power button. Nothing. It had died. Or maybe it had just decided it was done talking to me. I dropped it on the table and sank into the couch, staring at the shadows trembling across the ceiling. Somewhere outside, the dog started barking. Low, uneasy, constant. And through the window, just beyond the porch light, I saw it, a reflection in the glass. A figure standing exactly where the woods began, watching. The next morning, sunlight slanted through the curtains, slicing thin gold lines across the floor. I hadn't really slept, more like drifted in and out of shallow dreams filled with static and whispering. The memory of the figure by the woods stayed behind my eyelids every time I blinked. The phone sat on the kitchen table where I'd left it. The black screen stared up at me like a closed eye. I almost expected it to vibrate again, but it didn't. It looked dead, inert, harmless. I made coffee, more for the comfort of the smell than the taste. The kitchen felt smaller somehow, as though the walls had leaned closer overnight. Outside, the dog barked once, sharply, then went quiet. I told myself I should call the police, but what would I say? My missing brother's phone is texting me from itself? They'd think I was hallucinating, grieving. Maybe I was, still the letter was real. I pulled it from my pocket, unfolded it again, careful not to tear the damp paper. If you're reading this, you found the phone. Don't call the police. She's still watching. The words made no more sense in daylight than they had in the dark. Who was she? I laid the note flat on the counter and snapped a photo of it with my real phone. The camera stuttered for a second, refocused, and captured it. But when I checked the image, something strange glared back at me. Behind the note, in the faint reflection of the window, I could see a shape. A person, blurry and indistinct, standing near the tree line behind my house. I spun around. The backyard was empty. A chill crawled up my arms. I zoomed in on the photo until the pixels broke apart, but I couldn't tell what it was. My brain wanted to make it a shadow. My gut didn't. The next thought came automatically. Check the phone. I plugged it in, half hoping it would stay dead. After a few seconds, the screen lit up with that same dull glow. No lock screen, no passcode. It opened straight into the messaging app. New messages blinked at the top. 5 of them, all from the same unknown number that had warned me last night. Don't ignore this. She knows you read it. You shouldn't have taken the box. Put it back. Before tonight, my stomach tightened. I didn't know who she was, and I didn't know what would happen tonight, but I knew I wasn't going back to that river. Not alone. Around noon, I drove to my mother's house. She opened the door with that exhausted smile she'd worn since Arav disappeared. The house still smelled faintly like incense and the detergent she used. Family photos lined the hallway, but his picture had been turned face down on the shelf. I never asked why. Rohan, she said softly, hugging me. You look tired. Yeah, I said. Long week. I didn't mention the phone yet. I sat with her in the kitchen while she made tea, and we talked around the empty spaces, about the neighbors, about the garden, about anything except him. Finally, when the silence stretched too long, I said, Mom, when the police searched the river, did they ever find anything? She paused, spoon halfway to the cup. Why are you asking that? I was just thinking about him, I said carefully, wondering if they missed something. Her hand trembled slightly. No, she whispered. They didn't miss anything. They told us they found his footprints down there, but nothing else. Footprints. My throat tightened. What about his phone? She looked up sharply. His phone? Yeah, I said. They didn't get it back, did they? She shook her head slowly. No, they said it must have been lost in the water. I hesitated. What if I told you I found it? Her face drained of color. You what? I found it behind the house a few weeks ago, I said. It still works. It's been getting messages. From who? I swallowed. From me. From someone using my number? And from another number that keeps warning me. She stared at me for a long time. Then, without a word, she stood, went to the hallway, and opened the drawer where she kept old letters. She pulled something out, an envelope yellowed with age. I didn't want you to see this, she said. Inside was a note in the same handwriting as the one from the tin box. Arav's. If something happens to me, don't trust her. Don't let her near Rohan. I looked up at her. Who's her? My mother's eyes filled with tears. I don't know, she whispered. He gave me that note a week before he vanished. I thought he was being paranoid. The air in the kitchen thickened. Every sound felt too loud. The tick of the clock, the creak of the floorboards. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Not his phone. Mine. A new message from an unknown number. You told her. My blood went cold. I looked toward the window. Someone was standing by the fence. Just a blur of black clothing and long hair. Unmoving. Mom turned to see what I was staring at, but by the time she looked, the figure was gone. That night, I couldn't stay home. I drove aimlessly through town, trying to shake the feeling that something was trailing me. The roads were empty. Streetlights flickered in my rearview mirror like ghosts. Eventually, I found myself near the bridge again. The car idled as I stared through the windshield. The river glinted faintly in the moonlight. I knew I shouldn't be here, but it felt like gravity. I got out. The night was still. Even the insects were quiet. As I walked toward the riverbank, I noticed footprints in the mud. 2 sets. One leading down, one coming back up. The phone buzzed again. I didn't even take it out of my pocket. I could feel the vibration against my leg, over and over like a heartbeat. Then I heard it. A splash. I swung the flashlight toward the water. Ripples widened from the center of the river, spreading outward in silent rings. Something moved just beneath the surface. Pale, slow, deliberate. A head? A hand? I couldn't tell. I stumbled backward, breath catching, and the phone slipped from my pocket. It landed in the mud, screen first. For a moment, the light flickered, illuminating my shoes, the ground, the water. Then a message appeared, glowing faintly in the dark. You shouldn't have come alone. I froze. Turn around. The light from the phone dimmed as I turned. A figure stood at the far end of the bridge again, the same one as before. But this time, it started walking toward me. Slow, unhurried steps, each one echoing faintly off the wooden planks. I wanted to run, but my legs refused. My mind screamed at me to move, but I couldn't. The figure came closer until I could make out its face. It wasn't her. It was him, Arav, or something wearing his face. He looked exactly the same as he had 9 months ago, except his eyes were wrong. Too dark, too wide, reflecting the light in a way that didn't look human. Rohan, he said softly. His voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. My breath hitched. You're dead. He tilted his head. You shouldn't have opened the box. What is happening? He didn't answer. He just smiled. Small, almost gentle, and then pointed toward the river. It's still down there. I looked where he pointed. The surface rippled again. For a moment, I thought I saw something glint. Metal. Maybe another box, maybe something else entirely. When I turned back, he was gone. I drove home shaking. Mud on my hands, my jeans soaked to the knees. I left the phone on the passenger seat and refused to look at it again until morning. But even then, the buzzing didn't stop. Every time I picked it up, there was another message waiting. You can't stop her. It's already too late. She knows where you are. At first, I tried to ignore them. Then I realized the timestamps were wrong. They were all from tomorrow. By morning, the text had stopped. For the first time in days, the house was silent. No buzzing, no shadow at the window, no whisper of branches against the siding. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you think you've gone deaf. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the 2 phones, mine and Arav's, side by side. Same model, same screen size. Only his had that thin crack slicing diagonally across it like a scar. I told myself not to look, not to turn it on again. But curiosity is a cruel thing. It whispers, just one more time. The screen blinked awake, and for a few seconds nothing happened. Then, in the messaging app, a new thread appeared. No number, no contact photo. Just a single name, Arav. That name shouldn't have shown up. I hadn't saved any contacts on his phone. I tapped it. Open. It's not over. The message was time-stamped. 7:03 a.m., the current. Time, 7:02 a.m. My hand went cold. The moment the clock on the stove turned 7:03, another message appeared beneath it. You brought her back. Then the phone went dark again. I set it down slowly, heartbeat loud in my ears. Somewhere deep inside, I knew I was running out of time. Though for what, I couldn't say. Work was out of the question. I called in sick, voice hoarse, told them I had the flu. The truth was harder to explain. Instead, I drove to the old public library. It had a smell like dust and sunburnt paper, and that strange quiet that only libraries can hold. Not silence, but the sound of nothing moving. I started searching through old local archives. 9 months ago, the police report said Arav had gone missing near the river after attending a bonfire with friends. They found footprints and a few cigarette butts, but nothing else. I pulled every article I could find, scanning for names, details, inconsistencies. One line, buried in an interview with a witness, caught my eye. He left the party with a girl nobody recognized. Dark hair, red jacket. He called her Mira. Mira. The name meant nothing to me, but it fit too perfectly. She's still watching. I jotted the name down and kept digging. There were no other mentions of her. No missing person reports, no social media accounts, nothing. It was as if she'd been invented for that one night. When I left the library, the sun was already dipping low. I sat in the car staring at the name scribbled in my notebook. Mira. I typed it into my phone's contacts, then into the messaging app, and froze. A name auto-filled before I even finished typing. Mira. Saved. I hadn't saved it. I tapped it open. There was a single old text thread, dated the night Arav vanished. My throat closed as I scrolled. Mira. You found it? Arav. Yeah, it's real. Mira. Good. Don't tell your brother yet. Arav. He's not ready. The conversation ended there, but a minute later, Another message appeared at the bottom, one I hadn't sent. You were never supposed to read this. The sender wasn't Arav. It wasn't Mira. It was me. That night, I dreamed of water. Cold, dark water pulling me under while something watched from above. Hands, pale and smooth, pressed against my shoulders, holding me still. I tried to scream, but the river poured into my mouth instead. When I woke, the sheets were soaked with sweat. My phone buzzed beside me. Arav's phone, not mine. She's closer. I shot upright, eyes darting around the room. Check the window. I didn't want to, but my body moved anyway. Outside, in the half-light of dawn, stood a woman. Black hair, red jacket. Her face was tilted just enough for me to see her eyes. Blank, reflective, like the surface of water. She lifted a hand and waved slowly, as if she knew me. Then she turned and walked toward the woods. The message buzzed again. Follow her. Every instinct told me to stay put. Lock the doors. Burn the phone. Pretend none of this existed. But there are moments when fear and curiosity blur until you can't tell which one's pulling. Harder. So I followed. The woods were silent except for my footsteps and the occasional snap of a branch underfoot. Mist clung low to the ground, soft and gray. I saw flashes of red between the trees. The jacket. Just enough to keep me moving forward. After maybe 20 minutes, I reached the river again. The same bridge. The same slow water. She was standing in the middle of it, bare feet on the damp wood. Who are you? I called out. She didn't answer. The closer I got, the colder the air felt. My breath came out in white plumes. You were with my brother, I said. 9 months ago. She turned her head slightly. Just enough for me to see the corner of her mouth twist into something that might have been a smile. Then she stepped backward, off the bridge, and vanished into the river without a splash. I ran forward, leaning over the edge, searching the water for ripples, bubbles, anything. Nothing. The surface was perfectly still. Then I heard the buzzing. I looked down. Arav's phone was in my hand. I hadn't remembered bringing it. She's part of it now. So are you. Before I could type a response, a second message appeared. This one wasn't from an unknown number. It was from Arav. Meet me at the house. I didn't remember driving home. The next thing I knew, I was standing in my driveway, the car door hanging open behind me. The house looked different somehow. Darker, older, as if it had been sitting abandoned for years. Inside, the air was thick and cold. The lights flickered when I flipped the switch. The phone buzzed again. Upstairs. Each step creaked under my feet. At the top of the stairs, I saw a faint light leaking out from under Arav's old bedroom door. When I pushed it open, the air hit me like ice. The room was exactly how he'd left it. Posters on the walls, clothes on the chair, the faint smell of cologne and dust. But sitting on the bed was someone. Arav. He looked up, eyes hollow. You shouldn't have come, he said softly, my throat closed. You're dead, he smiled faintly. Not yet. He held out something small and black. Another phone, identical to his and mine. This is hers, he said. Take it and it'll stop. I hesitated. Who is she, Arav? He looked past me toward the doorway. His expression changed. Fear, sudden and sharp. She's here. Before I could turn, the lights went out. Something cold brushed my shoulder, and then everything went silent, except for the faint, steady buzz of a phone vibrating somewhere in the dark. Darkness has a sound. It hums. Low and endless, like blood in your ears. That's what I heard when the lights went out. Not silence, but that deep, living hum. I froze, too afraid to move. My hand still clutched the edge of the doorframe, nails digging into the wood. Somewhere to my right, the phone buzzed again. Faint, rhythmic, almost steady enough to be a heartbeat. Arav? I whispered. No answer. I fumbled for my flashlight app, but my own phone wouldn't turn on. The screen stayed black no matter how long I pressed the button. Then I heard footsteps. Soft, deliberate, crossing the carpet. 1 step, 2, 3, Rohan, it was his voice. Arav's voice. Except it was wrong. Stretched, echoing, too deep, like something imitating him. I turned toward the sound. Where are you? The voice came again, closer this time. Behind you. I spun around, flashlight still useless. For a split second, a shape moved past the window. A flicker of red. Then the door slammed shut. I ran to it, yanking at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The air in the room grew colder with every breath. I could see my exhale fogging in front of me. Buzz. The phone on the floor lit up, casting a thin white glow across the carpet. Arav's phone. I crouched, picked it up, and the screen came alive with a new message. Don't look at her. Immediately I felt it. The sense of someone standing right behind me. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the weight of her gaze on my neck. My muscles locked. My brain screamed to run, to do anything, but fear roots you in place. Another message blinked onto the screen. She feeds on memory. My pulse thundered in my ears. I remembered the box by the river, the note, the words she's still watching, and then a whisper. Right beside my ear. A woman's voice. Calm, slow, careful. Do you remember what he did? I didn't turn. I couldn't. She laughed in a small, dry sound. He told you he found the truth, didn't he? He never told you what it cost. Buzz. Don't answer her. The whisper moved again, circling me, her breath grazing my shoulder. He made a trade, she said. You were the price. I squeezed my eyes shut, clinging to the phone like it was a weapon. Run! The door burst open on its own, slamming against the wall. I didn't think, I just moved. I bolted down the hallway, down the stairs, through the front door, barefoot on cold grass. Only when I reached the middle of the yard did I dare look back. The house was still, every window black. But in Arav's room, one faint light glowed, and a figure stood silhouetted against it. Red jacket, long hair, watching. I didn't stop driving until I was halfway across town. I ended up in the parking lot of an all-night diner, shaking too hard to hold the steering wheel. The waitress gave me a worried look when I came in, but I just ordered coffee and sat in the back booth clutching the phone. The messages had stopped again. I scrolled through the thread, trying to make sense of it. The warnings, the timestamps, the words about memory. Feeds on memory. What did that mean? Then I saw a new message appear, one that didn't buzz. It just appeared silently. You still don't remember what happened that night? I typed back quickly. Tell me. A pause. Then, you were there. My hands went still. I started scrolling upward, looking at the earlier texts again, but one by one, they vanished. Lines of conversation blinking out of existence until the thread was empty. And then a video appeared. Just one file. Dated 9 months ago. The night Arav disappeared. I hesitated only a second before pressing play. The camera shook, angled low. It showed the river at night, black water reflecting the moon. Arav's voice was off camera, breathless. We found it, he said. It's real. Rohan's here too. The camera turned, and there I was. Me, standing on the bridge holding something metal. The tin box. In the video I said, "It's just a stupid box, Arav, let's go." He laughed. Don't be scared. It only opens for blood. He pricked his thumb with a small blade, let a drop fall onto the lid. The box opened. The screen flared white. The audio filled with static and distant screaming. When the image returned, the camera lay on the ground. The river churned violently, and a shape, a woman, rose out of it. Tall, hair streaming like black smoke. She reached for me. I turned, terrified, shouting Arav's name. Then the recording ended. I sat in the booth staring at the blank screen, heart hammering. My own voice echoed in my head. Let's go. It's just a stupid box. I had been there. The phone buzzed again. Now you understand. He didn't vanish. You traded places. I stared at the words until my eyes blurred. My reflection in the phone screen looked wrong, faintly distorted, as if water rippled across it. I closed the app, shoved the phone face down on the table, and pressed my palms to my eyes. Outside, rain began to fall. Slow, steady drops that pattered against the window like fingers. When I looked up, she was standing across the street, red jacket, black hair, barefoot in the rain. Every passing car went straight through her like mist. The waitress followed my gaze. You okay, honey? She asked softly. I blinked. The street was empty. I grabbed the phone and ran out into the parking lot. The rain soaked me in seconds, cold and heavy. I turned in every direction, shouting, What do you want? No answer. The phone vibrated again. Come home. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked abandoned. The porch light was out, the door half open. Inside, everything was wrong. Furniture overturned. The air smelled of wet soil. There were muddy footprints leading from the front door to the stairs. Small bare feet. The trail stopped in the hallway outside my room. On the wall, written in wet streaks of brownish water, were 5 words, Remember what you promised me. I backed away, shaking my head. No, I whispered. I don't remember. I didn't promise anything. The phone buzzed one last time. Then I'll help you remember. The lights flickered once, and all the picture frames along the wall shattered at once. Glass spraying across the floor. Through the shards, reflected in a dozen broken fragments, I saw her standing behind me, smiling. The sound of shattering glass didn't echo. It just stopped, like the world had swallowed it. I turned slowly. The hallway stretched behind me, dim and wrong, shadows bending where they shouldn't. She stood at the far end, barefoot, dripping, eyes too black to hold light. The red jacket clung to her shoulders like it was still wet. She smiled again, lips pale and trembling. You really don't remember, do you? Her voice wasn't human. It carried 2 tones, one soft, one deep, as if 2 people were speaking through the same mouth. I took a step back. What are you? She tilted her head, curious. You called me. You opened the box. You promised. I didn't. I stopped. Something inside me flickered. A half memory, faint but insistent. The smell of smoke. The sound of Arav laughing. The river glinting silver under the moon. She took 1 step forward. The floor creaked beneath her feet, leaving small wet prints that sizzled faintly against the wood. You traded him for me. The words hit like cold water. That's not true. Her expression softened. You asked for something. You wanted to forget? I didn't, but she was closer now, close enough for me to see the faint veins running beneath her skin, blue and shifting like currents. I took the memory, she said. That was the bargain. One life, for one truth. I stumbled back until my shoulders hit the wall. What truth? Her smile widened, almost kind. That you killed him. My breath stopped. The wall seemed to tilt. No, I said. No, I didn't. You pushed him, she whispered. He slipped. He begged you to help, but you were scared. You ran. And when the water took him, you begged to forget. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. Images flickered at the edges of my mind. The two of us arguing on the bridge, his voice breaking. The flash of anger. The shove. The splash. I shook my head violently. That's not real. She reached out her hand. It's the only thing that is. The hallway around us rippled like heat over asphalt. The air grew thick, damp, electric. I turned and ran. Down the stairs, through the living room, into the cold air outside. The world looked blurred and as if the edges of reality had softened. Behind me, the house groaned. Then a voice. His voice. Rohan. I froze. Arav stood by the porch steps. Pale. Dripping. Eyes hollow. He smiled. The same smile as hers. She said you'd remember. I backed away, shaking. You're not real. He tilted his head. You wanted to save yourself. I understand. She's lying. He looked past me toward the river in the distance. Then prove it. What? If you didn't kill me, come to where it happened. He started walking toward the trees. The red-jacketed woman followed, moving like a shadow behind him. I didn't want to follow, but my legs carried me anyway. The woods were darker than they should have been. The moon was high, but no light reached the ground. Every sound, the crunch of my steps, the whisper of leaves, seemed to echo endlessly. The river came into view like a scar through the earth, black and shimmering. The bridge stood silent, water slapping gently against its supports. Arav stopped at the center. She stood beside him, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. This is where you decided, she said softly. The choice that unmade you. Arav turned, his expression unreadable. You remember now, don't you? I tried to speak, but the words caught. The memory hit me like a flood. The fight. The shouting. The shove. The sound of him hitting the water. His hand reaching up, fingers breaking the surface once, twice, and then disappearing. And my voice shaking, saying, Please let me forget. The woman's hand touched my cheek. Her skin was freezing, and I granted it. Why show me now? I asked, voice barely a whisper. Because every promise ends, she said. You remembered too much. The trade is undone. Arav stepped closer, eyes gleaming with something between sorrow and fury. You left me there. Tears burned my eyes. I tried to go back, I said. I swear I did. I called for help. But you never told anyone, he interrupted. You buried my phone. You let Mom believe I just vanished. I was scared, I shouted. I didn't mean to. She doesn't care about meaning, he said, nodding toward the woman. She only keeps balance. The woman smiled faintly. One life for one truth. She looked at me then, eyes black as the river. It's time to finish it. The air turned heavy. The river began to churn, rising higher, reaching for the bridge like living hands. Arav stepped backward, into the water. He didn't struggle. He just watched me waiting. Take me instead, I said. Please, she tilted her head. You already made that deal. I lunged forward, but the bridge beneath me splintered. The world tilted and I fell. The shock of cold water hit like knives. I gasped, swallowed river, thrashed upward. The current pulled me down. The light of the moon flickered above like a coin at the bottom of a well. Hands grabbed my wrists, strong, cold, pulling me deeper instead of up. Arav's face appeared, eyes calm, almost gentle. It's okay, he whispered. You remember now. The woman's voice joined his, soft and endless, curling around me like smoke. Memory is a tide. You can't fight it, I screamed, or thought I did, but the water filled my lungs, my chest, my head, and then for a moment, everything went still. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on the riverbank. The sun was rising. The air smelled of earth and rain. The bridge was gone. The woods were quiet. Arav's phone lay beside me, screen cracked, still wet. I picked it up. It turned on immediately. One new message. The debt is paid. Another appeared beneath it. Go home. My hands shook as I pocketed the phone. I turned toward the path, the world strangely light, almost too quiet. When I reached the edge of the woods, I saw her one last time, standing by the trees, hair blowing in the wind, jacket dry and bright. She raised a hand, not in threat, but in farewell. Then she was gone. I walked home in silence. The house stood still, the porch light flickering weakly. Inside, everything was exactly as it had been before. No broken glass, no muddy footprints, no sign of the night at all. Only one thing had changed. On the kitchen table lay Arav's photograph, the one my mother had turned face down months ago. It was upright now, and in the photo, his arm was around me, But the person beside him wasn't me. It was her. I woke up to the sound of running water. It wasn't raining. It wasn't the faucet. It was the river. I could hear it from my room as if it had crept closer overnight. The air was damp and heavy. The faint scent of mud lingered under the wallpaper, in the carpet, in my breath. I sat up slowly, every muscle stiff. The house was quiet otherwise, too quiet. The photo on the dresser caught my eye, the one I'd found last night, the one that shouldn't exist. Arav smiling, and beside him, the woman in the red jacket, her hand resting on his shoulder. My face nowhere in sight, it made no sense. I picked it up, studied it, turned it over. On the back, someone had written in pencil, "This time remember." A chill crept up my spine. I walked downstairs. The sunlight through the curtains looked sickly, pale. On the table, Arav's phone waited, dry now, screen black. My own phone buzzed beside it. I didn't want to look, but I did anyway. Unknown number. "You need to finish it." The words sank like a stone in my chest. I typed back, "It's done. She's gone." A pause. Then, "Not gone. Waiting." Another buzz. "You brought her home." I looked around the house. The faded photographs, the still air, the faint, damp smell rising from the floorboards. I realized the sound of the river wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from below. The basement door had always been stuck. Arav and I used to joke that it was cursed. It groaned now when I pulled it open, releasing a gust of cold, wet air that smelled like the riverbank. Each step down creaked, the light bulb swinging faintly above me. The sound grew louder. Rushing water, close, impossibly close. The basement floor glistened. A thin layer of water pooled across the concrete, rippling around my shoes. At the center of the room sat the tin box. The same one I'd found under the bridge. Clean now. Whole. Waiting. I took a step forward, breath fogging in the cold. The phone in my pocket vibrated once, hard enough to sting. I pulled it out. Arav's phone. The screen lit up on its own. "Open it." "No," I whispered. "No more. You promised." The words pulsed across the screen, each letter appearing one at a time. The box rattled. I stumbled backward, but the water moved toward me, slow at first, then faster, crawling up my legs. I dropped the phone, grabbed the wall for balance. "Stop," I shouted. "It's over," a voice answered. Soft, familiar. "Nothing ends, Rohan. It only begins again." She was there. The woman stepped from the shadows, bare feet leaving ripples where she walked. Her jacket was gone, her hair clinging to her face. Her eyes shone like glass. "You wanted to forget," she said. "Now you'll remember for both of you." "What do you mean?" I demanded. "He's gone. I paid the price." She tilted her head. "He left a piece behind." The water surged upward, and I saw it, a shape beneath the surface, pale, still, half buried in the current. Hands, a face. Arav's. He opened his eyes. "Help me," he mouthed. I reached out instinctively, plunging my hands into the freezing water. It felt endless, at no bottom, no resistance. My fingers brushed his arm, real, solid. I tried to pull, but the current tightened, pulling him away, and then his expression changed. "Not fear, recognition. You shouldn't have come," he said, voice bubbling through the water. The box clicked open. Light burst out, white, searing, soundless. The world twisted inside out. I was back at the river. The bridge stood whole again, moonlight shining on its wet planks. The air buzzed with insects, with night. Everything looked exactly like it had 9 months ago. Arav stood at the edge, alive, breathing, whole. He turned as if he'd been expecting me. "You came back. I don't understand," I said. "You will." He knelt, reached into his pocket, and pulled out the tin box. "No," I whispered. "Don't open it," he smiled faintly. "You said that last time." He pricked his thumb, just like before. A drop of blood fell onto the lid. The box opened. The light poured out again, swallowing everything. Trees, river, sky. I screamed his name, ran toward him, but the ground dissolved beneath my feet. The river wasn't water anymore, it was reflection. Mirrors stacked on mirrors. In every surface, I saw her face, then his, then mine. When the light faded, I was standing in a small room. Not the house. Not the woods. It was Arav's bedroom. Clean. Quiet. Morning sunlight spilled through the window. The phone buzzed softly on the nightstand. I reached for it. My phone, not his. New message. From Mom. "Morning, Arav. Breakfast's ready." My hand froze. "Arav." I looked around the room again. The posters. The clothes. The smell of his cologne. In the mirror, I saw his face staring back. I touched my cheek. He touched his. My heart went still. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number. One life. For one truth. The screen flickered, and for an instant, my reflection behind the glass wasn't alone. She stood over my shoulder, smiling faintly, her eyes soft and endless. Then she whispered, only once, close to my ear, "Now he'll remember." The phone went dark. The house feels different now. Lighter. Mom hums in the kitchen like she used to. She doesn't mention Rohan anymore. Sometimes I think about him, though. Flashes in my head that don't belong. His voice. His hands. The river. At night, I hear water under the floor. And sometimes, when I wake up too suddenly, I see a face in the mirror behind mine. The same one that used to belong to me. It's smiling. Waiting. The end.